Hi there, I'm Chris Oos.
And I'm Aos. Today on the podcast, we are talking about things that you wish you did when you were a teenager. I hope you guys enjoy the episode.
All right, welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about things that we wish we had done in our teen years. I know, like for me, there's quite a few things. For Isaiah, he's kind of not that far out of his teen years, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that maybe that'll give us kind of a different perspective. A lot fresher in your mind. For me, obviously, my teen years were a long time ago, so
Right.
a lot of the things I wanted to do, I probably couldn't remember now. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I just kind of cleared my teen years. So things that matter now probably won't matter in the future. Maybe they will, I don't know. But there's definitely that perspective there. Mine are just right fresh in the mind. That's part of the reason we started this podcast is because I have, a younger view and two different views from two different generations. So yeah. But yeah, so what would you say is probably the biggest one for you?
I think probably for me, my biggest thing was I wish I would have been better at managing money.
Okay.
Putting more into savings, thinking ahead to the future. I mean, obviously, when you're a teen, you're kind of in the moment. You're thinking about, buying the next car and,
Right.
meeting the girl that you're going to marry and,
Right.
things like that. You're not really thinking about the future. I mean, retirement seems so far away that, you're kind of thinking, oh, I've got lots of time to do it. So, I wish I would have, as an adult, I wish I would have been a lot smarter with my money as a teen. Maybe started a business, got that out of the way first, and then, went and had fun and, did things that, I did in advance, I guess.
Yeah, I understand that too. I should have saved money because when I got to college, I didn't have any money, and I had to, borrow a little bit of money. I struggled a lot with working, trying to pay my bills. I was behind all the time, and if I just saved a bit of money, it would have been fine. So I definitely understand the saving money aspect, wanting to start up a savings account, maybe invest a little bit, especially since later on down the road that money's going to grow. So, it's a better investment for the future. But luckily, I caught on now. I got to do that now. But I wish I did it when I was a teenager as well. But that's, I think, a common theme between, not between us, but like most people when they think about that is not thinking about ahead. Because at teens, you're like right now. You know what I mean? So what are some of the things that you did that, I mean, you don't have to get into too much detail, but like, what are some of the things that you did and it's like, I shouldn't have done that because it hurt me later on down the road?
Well, like I say, just not budgeting. I mean, back then it was like you had a paycheck, so you went out and you bought a new car, or you bought something for your car, or you went out and bought new clothes, or you went out and partied a little bit. It wasn't, I didn't actually have a budget. I didn't think to myself, okay, I need to put a little bit away in savings for, when I don't have money.
Right.
I always lived, okay, I'm going to work my butt off and get that paycheck. I'm going to go out and have fun with it. So, and I think a big part of that is our generation, my generation, had a big breakdown in education. We weren't taught about how to manage money. We weren't taught on how to write down a budget. That was something in my parents' generation a little bit more, but their parents' generations, that was when people actually thought about that kind of stuff. And over a couple generations to my generation, that kind of broke down, and then it got to the point where nobody really talked about it. It wasn't talked about in school. It wasn't talked about from our parents. It was almost like it was a big secret.
Right.
So
Yeah. One other thing I noticed, not the value really, but the importance of starting sooner rather than later. Like with this podcast, if we started like a year ago, like how many more subscribers would we have now? I mean, we didn't think of it till like recently, but that's just an example. With everything I wanted to start, if I started when I really wanted to, how long would it have taken me to get to the point I am now, and how far along would I be? I think that's important to know that if you want to do something, do it, because experiencing everything you can right now is important because you don't have kids, you don't have debt, you know what I mean? So, like, going and out and starting an online business, or whatever you want to do, a YouTube channel, something like that, is important. If you really want to do that when you're like 18, 19, whatever, you have that freedom. You can go do whatever you want with your money. So why not do that if you really want to, instead of going out and, like you said, partying or buying clothes or something like that, because those things are temporary. The things that I bought with my money that I could have put towards my business or whatever it is, I spent on like clothing or food, and I don't have any of that now. Like I bought this at Goodwill, I think, because I understood that the value later on in life, not really too much later on, a couple years later on, but back then I was buying like Under Armour or Nike because I thought that was cool. But really, the cool thing would be, if I could look back and say I did that and now I'm here. I'm where I want to be, or I'm close to where I want to be, or I'm getting there. But I didn't really realize that as a teenager. So that's one thing too.
I think, though, I mean, everyone goes through that stage where you move out on your own, you become your own person. So you're almost trying to discover who you are. And also, I think in a lot of ways, you have that freedom. Okay, I don't have to wear what my parents say I have to wear. Like I can go out and buy this, or I can buy that. I can, be the person that I want to be. So I think that, we all have to go through that stage. I just wish that I would have went through it a lot quicker. Realize, I mean, you're way ahead of me in life. You're at a point in life where you're 20 years old, you're already budgeting, you're already saving money. You've come to that realization a lot quicker. So
yeah, I don't know. I think it must be the age we live in, just because I look on YouTube and I'm like, I watch these videos about self-improvement because I want to get the nice cars, or I used to want to get the nice cars or whatever, but I didn't understand the connection there. So I went on YouTube, looked at those videos, and then they said you got to do this. But back in your day, you would read a book, and even then maybe you did or whatever, but it was mostly just your friends that told you what to do. For me, it was like I go on YouTube and I search how to do this, how to do that, and I'm able to learn, don't spend your money on clothing because it doesn't make you any better than it did before you had that piece of clothing. Invest that money or something like that. So I don't think it's me necessarily being farther along. I think it's just society's grown to that point where it's becoming cooler.
I can see that. I mean, you guys, everything's at our fingertips now. You don't have to have a mentor or somebody, like where our parents in my generation weren't really concerned with teaching us that kind of stuff. Your generation basically has YouTube and social media and stuff that are feeding you this stuff, and you've got that opportunity to go out and take a look and find the information for yourself. So I can see that big difference there.
Yeah, because like back in your day, it was go to work, it's go to school or go to work, get a job, work for 40 years, retire, whatever it is. It wasn't like today where it's like there's all these jobs and you can discover it and you can go train to do this or whatever it is. The world's so connected now that it's not just work for 40 years. It's do this maybe, you know what I mean? Like people don't work for 40 years anymore.
No.
There's no one I know that's been out of job for, more than probably 5 years. You know what I mean? Because they're switching. Because they don't, like some of my buddies that are in the military now, before they went to the military, and this is in the span of like 1 year, I think, we're like at 4 different jobs. Because in this day and age, it's not like you're supposed to, work or go to school, get a job, 40 years. It's you go to this job, don't like it, go to this job, whatever it is. And some of that is also like, I know people say like millennials or whatever are just impatient or whatever, but I think it's actually a better thing than we see it as.
I think so, and I mean, like, impatient might not be the right word. I see in you kind of a sense of urgency, and that's kind of going back to what I was saying. I wish I would have got all that stuff done out of the gates instead of waiting and then struggling to get it done now. You've got kind of a sense of urgency where you want to get that stuff done now, get yourself set up so that you can enjoy life, and that's how it should be.
Right.
I mean, you should get your work done first and then play afterwards. But
for sure. Like Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else so you can live like no one else. But no kids are putting that together, you know what I mean? In high school, it sucks because, you have all those kids wearing Nike and stuff like that, and you think, and they're cool, and you think to be cool I have to wear Nike. But it's really not that simple, because like once you're done with school, you're out in the real world, and you're looking around, and you're like, oh, no one's wearing Nike, but I am, and I have no money, and all these people are doing their things. So, I mean, it sucks. Like, but it's never going to change, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But it just has to get to the point where people are more self-aware about like what they actually have to do instead of these things. You know what I mean? More education towards the younger generation. I think I was the oddball because I was always interested in business. Just growing up in the household, like you were always starting doing business stuff and like learning about all these different things. So I kind of caught onto that, and I started looking towards different ways of doing things. And if every kid did that, that'd be great because then we'd be living in a better world. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen because they want to wear Under Armour or Adidas and they want to spend their money on that kind of stuff, or hang out with their friends, party, all this stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, there hasn't been a whole lot of education in the home over the years. Like with my generation, towards their children, because I mean they just weren't taught. For me, I wanted to give you guys a leg up. My theory has always been that I want you guys to do a little bit better than I've done in life. So to just push you in the right direction, and hopefully your generation will push their children in a better, a little bit better direction, and eventually, I'm hoping that generations in the future that all of our family will be successful.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it starts with groundwork. Or that sounds a little weird, but like, generations. If you're able to put that onto me, and I'm able to put them into my children, I think that we'll end up being good in the end of it.
Yeah.
But.
Now, the other thing that I wish I had done, I mean, like we kind of touched on a little bit, was saving. I mean, we kind of went back and forth there a little bit, touched on quite a few things, but saving is one of the things that is really important. We've talked between ourselves about the rule of 72 and how if you put $10,000 away today, by retirement, that money is going to be worth exponentially more.
Right.
The way, if you guys don't know how the rule of 72 works, it's you take your interest rate and you take the number 72 and you divide it by the interest rate, and that's what the number you come up with is the number of years it takes for your money to double. So if you have an interest rate of 12%, you divide 72 by 12, that gives you 6. So every 6 years your money is going to double.
Right.
So if you put $10,000 away at your age right now, you're 20 years old, right? So that means between you and retirement, if you retired at 65 years old, that's what? 45 years. So to make it an even number, let's go with 42 years. Say you retired at 42. So that money is going to multiply and it's going to double 7 times. So $10,000 after 6 years becomes 20,000, 40,000, 80,000, 160,000, 320,000, 640,000, 1.28 million.
Right.
So, I think that if people nowadays knew how that worked, they'd be more apt to save at your age.
And that's with $10,000.
That's with $10,000.
They don't realize if they saved up if they get out of high school and they are able to save up maybe 20,000, like that's even more to retire with, and it also gives you peace of mind too, knowing that money is going to be waiting for you at the very end of it. You know what I mean? Just,
And honestly, how long would it take you to save up $10,000? Even at a job, at a retailer or something like that, being a single person, paying your bills, reasonably in 2 years you could probably save up $10,000.
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. So to work hard. I mean, like it kind of reminds me of the story of the how the ants work. They save up for winter time, and then during the winter time they don't have to work.
Right.
So as a young person, if you were to work for a couple of years to save up that money and just put it aside, not touch it, not think about it, and then you could relax and you can enjoy life and do the things you want as long as you had enough money to put aside. I mean, it just takes a little bit of simple planning to get to that point.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a common theme you'll see is that just if the really big thing is just make sure you're thinking about the future. I think I've talked about that. Think about the future is the really big regret. So for teens to take away from this is you got to think about the future because everyone's in the now. Think about the future.
Yeah. I mean, all those different clothing items you buy. I mean, when I think back about all the money I spent on just stuff, I'm not going to say useless stuff,
right?
Because it was useful. But I mean, at one point, I think I had 5 cars. you know, a couple Camaros and a couple other different cars, you know, like I thought I was pretty cool because I
Right.
had a bunch of stuff. But all that stuff is gone now, and a lot of it went to the junkyard because I mean I had a whole bunch of stuff I couldn't afford to keep, couldn't afford to fix, and you know eventually it just fades away.
Yeah.
So you know you got to get the perspective that you know. I think we've touched on the point of we've talked about how you know you buy all this stuff to fit in with everyone, and you know in the end, it's really not going to have any benefit for you.
Right. It just gives you the sense of success in the short term because that's what people see success as. It's like I have a couple cars, I have, you know, all this cool clothes, a house, women, parties, you know what I mean? That's what we see as success. So, you know, going out and buying a car doesn't do anything for you. It's an indicator of success, but it's not success. It'll never be success. Like having all these cool things is never success. It's just a luxury you can afford afterwards. And that's the important thing too, is to make sure that you're good and then you have these things. To be honest with you, I don't want a Lamborghini. A lot of people are like working towards that Lamborghini. I don't really want one. I don't want to have to drive through the snow in a Lamborghini. That would suck. You know what I mean? I want a nice truck or whatever it is. But you never really realize that. So if I had all that money when I was 18, I'd have a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? So, and it's the same thing with clothing. Like Nike doesn't matter to me. I buy like shirts for a couple dollars at Ross or whatever it is, like $12 at Ross. And if I went to Nike, I'd have to buy like $20 worth of socks. You know what I mean? It's costs so much, and there's really no point in having it because you're not any happier. And that's what real success is. It's happiness. You got to be good with yourself. So you're not any happier buying these things. You are kind of like, you're like, oh, I got this nice Nike sweatshirt, but you're not going to be any better afterwards. You're not going to be smarter or happier, or you're not going to, you know, be healthier. You want to put your money into those things, being healthier, happier, making sure you're where you want to be. Money does play into that a little bit. I did want to talk about that because I'm never going to be happy if I don't make at least enough money to take care of my family. You know what I mean? So money does play into happiness, but if I'm making money and I'm able to take care of my family, but I'm working a job I hate, like I'm not going to be happy. You have to have those both. And if it's not going to work into those things, you don't really need it. You don't need a, you know, not even a Camaro. Like Camaros aren't like super expensive, not in the scale of Lamborghinis and, you know, Ferraris. But, you know, it doesn't help you. It just makes you have these false, you know,
sense of success.
Yeah, a false sense of success and a false sense of, you know, I'm better than everyone, or, you know, I'm with everyone on this. But it doesn't give you any more of an advantage or any more happiness. The real secret is just making sure you're okay and you're where you want to be. And then, you know, then these things really get cool. Like if I'm at that point and I do want a Lambo, like I'm going to be happy with a Lambo, not sad with a Lambo. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
If that makes sense, because I mean it's on a smaller scale too. Like if I'm not happy and I have Nike, I'm working at a terrible job and I have Adidas and I'm, you know, all these things and I have all these awesome toys or whatever, or had them at one point, but I'm poor and my family's miserable and I'm miserable. There's no point in that, and you don't realize that till later on. And that's what people need to realize when they're growing up is, you know, it doesn't matter what you have, it matters what you do, and, you know, you being good with yourself. I can't stress that enough. You being good with yourself is the only important thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, we as young people we think about how a Lamborghini is a sign of success. If we actually look at the millionaires in the world, most of them don't buy Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
Most of them don't buy brand new Mercedes. I read a book that they interviewed, I think it was 100 millionaires around the world, you know, really in-depth interview, and they talked about, you know, some of their spending habits, and a lot of these millionaires went out and they bought 4-year-old cars,
Right.
You know, and because after 4 years, the depreciation, you know, slows down. So, you know, guys like Warren Buffett still drives Mercedes from the mid to late 90s, I think I remember hearing. And that's because he knows the value of his money. He's not going to go out and spend $80,000 on a brand new Mercedes that in 4 years is going to be worth $45,000.
Right.
Right? To him, that's not a good investment. And like I say, a lot of the millionaires, they'll buy a 4-year-old car because, I mean, generally, people that are buying $80,000 Mercedes, aren't, going to be abusing them.
Right.
So, after 4 years, they're still a good car, but these millionaires are getting a good value for their money.
Right.
So I think that's important for young people to realize is that, they have to be smarter with their money. I mean, trucks nowadays. I mean, you see so many young people driving around in these, $50,000, $60,000 trucks, and they invest another $20,000 into lift kits and, big
Right.
light bars and all that kind of stuff. And then after 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, once they pay it off, then they're ready to go out and buy another one, and they get into this vicious cycle, where they're making an $800 payment every month to, drive something that's never going to benefit them.
Yeah.
It's-
Except for their ego.
Except for
That's the
their
only
ego.
thing. That's the only thing that'll benefit. But if you're taking care of yourself, the ego's going to take care of itself
Mm-hmm.
because you're where you want to be. But go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, you're a good example. I mean, you drive around in a Toyota.
Yaris, yeah.
A Yaris. I mean, it's a used car. I mean, I'm sure that's not your dream car.
I mean, it's not. I don't really have a dream car because I practice what I preach a lot of the time, and having a dream car for me, I don't have a dream. I think I will when I get to where I want to be, but a dream car for me is like working towards this false aspiration when I could be working towards my my dream career, which is, I don't fully have it figured out, but I don't work towards material things. I don't say I have a dream car, but I think when I get to where I want to be, I'll have a dream car.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But sorry, back to what you're saying. It's not the ideal situation. Sometimes it slips around in the, snow, and I'd probably rather have like a Jeep or something like that. But I don't want to go out, spend all that money because I have this great vehicle that's also, paid off, and I'm able to put my money into different areas. You know what I mean? So.
And obviously, once your income increases and you get to a point where, you can actually look at something and say, okay, I can afford that, like you say, maybe you will figure out what your dream car is, but, you have a really good outlook on life right now and a really good perspective, that, okay, this works for me, so I think that's a real indicator of the success you're going to have in the future because you're laying the groundwork and you're laying the proper perspective and you're looking at life properly. So it'll be interesting to see, in 10 years where you are and what you're driving. And it'll also be interesting to see what you're driving in comparison to all these people that are, realizing their dreams now. They're driving that $70,000 pickup,
right?
Or, that, Corvette or something like that. It'll be interesting to see in 20 years, putting you guys side by side and seeing, who really has the success, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's other areas too. Like I have a smartwatch that I got for Christmas. People are like spending money on, Rolexes once they get enough money. They're spending money on all these different things, and you really just need one. Just realize what you need. Like, yeah, I have a phone. It's a little cracked. It's a little dented. It does the job. I have a decent car. I have a good watch. I don't need to buy all these things. You know what I mean? I don't need any more clothes because I have all the clothes I need. I'm wearing sweatpants right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to have all these things that are unnecessary because I can funnel all that into different areas. If I'm worried about my car, putting a lift kit on it, doing all that, I'm funneling, like you said, I'm funneling money. I just thought about my car with a lift kit on it.
Yeah, that's
and a light bar, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm funneling all that money into something that, like we've said, and I'm sure people are getting sick of listening to this, does not matter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that going to do for me? Like, I think that's the biggest thing, thinking about that. What is this going to do for me? I do catch myself every once in a while. Like, I bought a new computer, but that's because my old computer was dying. It wasn't good anymore. But, I got this new computer, and I'm like, I love this computer. I want more new stuff. But I have to, stop myself because nothing that I would have, would be able to buy would give me any more happiness. Mm-hmm. You have to step back and realize, is that taking me towards my goal? Is this, helping me be happier, being a better person, making me the person I want to become? And if the answer is no, then don't do it. And a lot of the time, I realized that having the option to do it, saving money and having the option to do something, makes you happier than having it. Like, I had the option to buy a laptop. I had the option to go in there and buy like 5 if I really wanted them. But, having the option to go in there and do that makes me happier than actually doing it. The security of it. I could go in to a store tomorrow and I could buy myself a new coffee maker, a new, stove, maybe a new laptop, DVD player, TV. You know what I'm saying? But I don't care because it's the happiness isn't in the material things, it's in the option also. But even then it's not that great of happiness. You have to figure out who you are, and I preach that enough. I don't want to go back to that, but having the option makes you happier than having the things. If I get to the point where I'm able to buy a Lambo, I don't think I will, just because I know I could and I'm good with what I have. You know what I mean? And also, Lambos are kind of overrated, but that's a different discussion.
Well, if it ever gets to that point, you can buy me a Lambo.
Yeah, I can buy you a Lambo.
Yeah.
And a Rolly and a new TV, right? Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember. Oh, what was that? Dang it, it was such a good point too.
Well, you can interject it later on if you think of it. So, another thing that I wish I would have done when I was younger was setting myself up for success. And I mean, we've kind of touched on the savings part of it.
Right.
But there's a lot of other aspects that I wish I would have, focused on. The self-improvement part of it. That was something that came along later in life, and it was not really something that I motivated myself to do. I was motivated to do it because, I needed to be more successful. I needed more money. So, all of a sudden, like I had to start thinking about, how can I make more money? Well, so you start looking around, you start finding some of the multi-level marketing businesses.
Right.
Now, we've touched on those before too, and I guess for a lot of people they just don't work. Right. Because we don't have the self-motivation, we don't have the ability or the desire to put ourselves out there to be successful at those things. One of the things that they do well is introducing you to self-improvement materials. So by starting a multi-level marketing business, that was the one benefit that I did get out of it. I started getting into some of the self-improvement materials, the books, the tapes, the podcasts, things like that. I mean, back then it was cassette tapes, not podcasts, but
right.
You get what I mean. It was that was a real benefit for me because it got me introduced to that stuff and seeking out more stuff. So, right. Like I got a little bit over here, so I would start looking around for different books and stuff I could listen to. Nowadays, it's a lot better with YouTube. I can get on there and listen to that kind of stuff. Audible, I can get on there and download a book. So, that's one of the things that I wish I would have done when I was younger. I wish I would have introduced myself to it before I had the need for it, because I think that if I would have introduced myself to it before I had the need for it, then I probably would have had a lot different perspective on life. I would have become, like you've been talking about, become successful, then bought all the stuff instead of getting to the point where I need the money because I went and bought the house and went
right.
and bought the car and went and bought the all the toys and stuff like that, and then I needed more money because I put myself in that position. So then I start to improve myself. I wish I would have done it the opposite way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do that now, where I'll like do all the motivational stuff or the learning stuff. I always listen to a podcast because I think that when I'm working, that is, because I'm making money, and while I'm working, if I can hear that podcast, I think that a part of me will understand in the subliminal part of my mind, it'll come up as one of my ideas. If I listen to all these business podcasts, it'll come up as one of my ideas in my subliminal mind. It'll be like, hey, this is a good idea, but I actually heard it in a podcast. I think that setting yourself up like that, and you could spend your money listening to music, whatever it is, buying music, and that's not that bad because I do listen to music myself. But putting your money towards that, if you can't make a business right now, if you're 15 years old, you don't really have that much money, and you get $5 a month from your mom for chores or whatever. You could totally purchase a book, or go on Audible and get a book. I don't know how much that is, but get a book and start improving yourself now. That way, when you get the resources to do it, you are ahead of the game. That's one of the things. Probably the most important thing is getting yourself ahead of everyone else. Because if you listen to any motivational speech, it's like people talking about they get up at 4 a.m. because no one else is up at 4 a.m. They get so much work done because of that. It's about getting ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. And it's not even waking up early. It's just getting ahead of the game in the sense that I am learning all this stuff now and you are sleeping. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you're a kid, you wake up before school, read a book, go to school, at lunchtime you're reading, come home reading. Like, it seems like a waste of time. You're not partying, you're not doing all this stuff, but you're improving your life later on down the road, because you're starting to understand and decipher all these things that are going to become important later on in life. Mm-hmm. So setting yourself up for success doesn't always mean saving money, doesn't always mean investing money. Sometimes it's just investing in your own knowledge and your own understanding of these markets. Not even just markets, but if you want to be a comedian, improve that. Start practicing. Start going out and doing shows. Or if you want to be a singer, start putting videos on YouTube about you singing. Setting yourself up for success comes in so many different packages. You just have to realize all the different roads you can take. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But yeah.
That's a good point. So I guess a point to make here would be, with setting yourself up for success, it's hard work. Mm-hmm. So I think that one of the things that we need to touch on as well is actually having that work ethic. You kind of touched on it where, you have to set aside that time. You have to, make sure that you're doing the proper steps, seeking out the materials, things like that. So, right. You actually have to have that work ethic. You have to make a decision that, I want to get to this point in life, so I'm going to have to work for it. And we talked about that in a previous podcast as well, like, how, you don't want to do your schoolwork, but, tomorrow you is going to thank you for doing it today. So.
Right. Yeah. Work ethic is important. There was one thing I was going to with that, but you gotta put it plain and simple with yourself. I want to be here. There's no way I'm getting from here to here without this middle stuff. I gotta learn, I gotta plan, I gotta execute, all that. People think that if they sit around, somebody's gonna pop out of the blue and be like, hey, you want to act in my movie, or you want to be in a business. It doesn't work like that. You gotta be real with yourself. You gotta be plain and simple, and then you gotta realize that waking up and going to school sucks, but you have to do it to get there. Mm-hmm. Practicing that also, along with, if you have goals like you want to be slimmer, you want to work out, you want to get bigger muscles, whatever that is, you got to realize that working out sucks. That's how you get muscles. You know what I mean? And you have to practice that every day, because work ethic isn't just like I'm a hard worker now. You know what I mean? It's like I get up every day and I do this because I want to get to that goal, because I understand. Working out makes me get there. Reading helps me get there. Practicing what I preach helps me get there. You know what I mean? Not buying random crap helps me get there. Mm-hmm. All these things channel into work ethic. Being self-motivated, disciplined enough to not go out and buy random stuff. All these things eventually are the building blocks to being a more motivated, self-disciplined person who has just incredible work ethic. Mm-hmm. People think that some people are just born that way. People think that it's something that you are born with, and it's like a superpower that you have or you don't have. But really, it's just, I understand the world and you don't. I understand that I can get up every day and go for a run, and then I'm going to be in better shape than you, and you don't. You think it's going to be handed to you. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's really the only thing that's going to create work ethic for some of these young people. Mm-hmm. In your generation, I think work ethic kind of meant get up and go to the mill and hammer something for like forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what work ethic meant, is I can get up every day and I can hammer this thing and someone's going to give me a paycheck. But now it's like, I can get up every day and read, or I can get up every day and watch a video about this. And that is work ethic to me because it's boring as hell sitting through a lecture. But if I can focus and if I can write down my notes perfectly, I am going to get to the point where I'm the best scientist in the world or something like that. You know what I mean?
My opinion is that, work ethic kind of starts with, starting to do the little things. I mean, like, and I guess I'm kind of tying in habits as well, things that kind of, like you say, feed into work ethic. Like you say, not all of us are born with it.
Right.
So some of us actually have to develop it, and for some of us, it's a struggle every day. For me, work ethic's never been a problem. I had a pretty good example of my dad, and he worked hard, supported the family. I've always had that motivation. My family needs to eat, my family needs to have a roof over the head, so I have to work hard.
Right.
So for me, that part of it. Then you get outside of that, and like this, doing a podcast is hard work.
Right.
It's hard to get motivated to do it. It's hard to, it's not just sitting down in front of a camera. It's preparing. It's, getting yourself mentally ready. It's, figuring out a subject and trying to keep it interesting. Then you've got to edit it, and you've got to upload it, then you've got to promote it. So there's a lot to it, and it's hard to stay motivated. So, you just have to, take your steps to get to that point where you're motivated. And I don't think you can compartmentalize it either. I think it's one of those things that you have to develop, that work ethic in every aspect of your life, so that when you do these kind of things. So like examples, like I get up in the morning and my house needs to be clean, so I've got to clean my house so that I don't have to think about my house when I want to go and do a video.
Right.
So I think it's important for me to start doing the little things. So I get up in the morning, I make my bed.
Right.
I have my shower, I put on my pants, like little things like that. Those are the things that lead into my work ethic, so that I can get out here and I can do this with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of things that people don't realize funnel into work ethic do. Having a routine, because it's kind of hard to follow a routine, especially if there's hard work involved. Knowing I'm going to wake up this time, make my bed, do all this, film a podcast, go shovel the walk, whatever it is. There's a lot of hard work, and keeping that routine will keep you mentally disciplined enough to, if something goes wrong, like let's say tomorrow this podcast gets deleted, we have to do one in like 45 minutes, or we're not going to be able to upload in time. If something if you're able to follow those routines and things like that, if something gets thrown in it, you're already like structured enough to the point where you're like, well, I can get this done now, and it's pretty much like muscle memory to me, and then I can film a podcast. You know what I mean? So many things funnel into that, and having the mental discipline too, like knowing that your actions create outcomes, mm-hmm. instead of outcomes form your actions. You know what I mean? Most people think it's the other way, where things happen to me and I have to deal with it. But really, it's the opposite. I can deal with it now, so they don't happen to me. Mm-hmm. And so having, a good base where you can work off of, and like setting yourself up for success in having these routines and doing all this stuff. If a wrench gets thrown in it, you're going to be good because you have all this discipline that you, not in a way saved up, but have been working on this whole time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So there's a lot of different aspects, like we talked about, of work ethic, and I think that it's such a big subject. I think that that's something that we're probably going to have to do a podcast on in the future, because to try and just make it a small portion of the podcast really didn't do it justice. So right. Eventually in the future, I think I'd like to do a show on just work ethic, and we could kind of talk a little bit more in depth about it, and maybe steer people in the right direction, some books to read and some people to watch. Joe Goggins, great motivational speaker, somebody who developed his work ethic on his own. It was a very inspirational story. But anyway, I think, like I say, that's a program that deserves its own, deserves to be done on its own.
Yeah, maybe even a couple podcasts, different spots, just because it's so expansive. and there's no right or wrong answers necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to get more in depth with that. So.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Down below is our social media linked in the description. Leave a comment if you have anything else you want us to talk about, and make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like if you liked the video.
And make sure to hit that bell notification so you know when we upload new videos and shit. All right.
Okay, we got this.
Yeah. Gotta hurry up. Here comes Maddie. All right, guys, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to go check out our social media link down below. Leave a comment if you have anything for us to talk about in a future episode. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like if you like the video.
All right, and make sure to hit that bell notification so you're alerted when we upload new videos.
That's it for this episode. See you guys next time.
See you next time.